Listening to OMTimes Radio. The following is an encore presentation. Welcome to Joy of Business with host Simone Milasas, a dynamic business leader with a difference. Simone has founded and operated many businesses from a young age and has always done business differently. Today, Simone is the worldwide coordinator of Access Consciousness and travels the world presenting Joy of Business programs using access tools and empowering people to know that they can create business in a different way and make money doing it. Simone Milasas, weekly on OMTimes Radio.
Hi everyone, welcome to Joy of Business on OMTimes. Another exciting show we have here. You're with Simone Milasas, your host. And I am at home again. I feel like I'm saying that all the time at the moment on these shows, and usually I'm not. I'm in some place around the world, but that's about to start. 2016 is an extremely busy year. I was talking to my partner the other day, and we were like, wow, it looks like it's got a busier schedule than 2015. So how does it get any better than that? I'm excited. But I am at home right now doing we're doing another pre-record because obviously the Australian internet, and we've got a super busy January as well. So I've got on today's show someone who I work with Access Consciousness and with Joy of Business, Emily Russell. She's been on our shows before, so welcome, Emily.
Hi, Simone. Thank you.
And we were having a chat the other day, and we were like, what topic could we do? And we came up with, well, Emily was like, something about knowing in business. So I wrote down this morning, the art of knowing in business. It's almost like the art of awareness is what I'd want to say too. Because you know what? In knowing in business, it's about awareness in business. And it's like, so how much, let's go straight in there and ask. It's like, how much do you know about business that you've been refusing to know, that if you didn't refuse to know it, would change your entire reality, business, money, cash flows, currency flows, all of it. And everything at that is times a godzillion where you destroy and uncreate it.
Yeah.
All you have to say is yes, right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all known, shorts, boys and beyond. And again, look up accessjoyofbusiness.com. Go to the little section on Access Consciousness, the clearing statement. This stuff works. It's changed my entire life. And more than just changed my life, it's actually, the tagline of Access Consciousness is empowering you to know that you know. And hence, there's our topic. And it's like, so what do you know about business that you've been refusing to acknowledge? And everything at that is times a godzillion where you destroy and uncreate it. Right and on, good and bad, pock and pot, all names, shorts, boys and beyond. So what do you know, Emily, about business that you've been refusing to acknowledge, that if you acknowledged it would change everything?
I love that question. And that's why when we talked about doing a show for this, that what topic to choose, because you have such a gift. I think so many people in business want to find like the book or the system or someone to tell them how to run their business. And a lot of people do get pretty far with that. But there's a certain limit because you're following someone else's knowing or someone else's awareness of what works for them. And what I've seen you do over and over and over again, how you create Joy of Business and Access, is from this place of awareness and knowing. So can you talk a bit about that? Because I think so many people who maybe aren't familiar with Access, or even if they are, they're used to a different way of like kind of following a system of what should work. And you function from a completely different place.
I do. And thank you. And okay, so a bit of background too, though. That's something that is a capacity that I would have that was never acknowledged. And if anything, I used to walk around the planet going, okay, this can't be, this has to be something else. There really has to be something else. But everyone I spoke to was more along the lines of, well, like you said, have you read this book? Have you done this? This is the system. This is the structure. This is the way you do it. And I knew that there was a different way that you could do business. My father was an accountant and so was my brother. And I remember sitting down with an idea that I had to start this business and they were both like they were encouraging, and they were also like, well, you've chosen, something that's going to take a lot of hours. It's going to be long, hard work. You ready for that sort of thing? And it's not that I wasn't ready for long, hard work. It was just like, it felt so locked in that that's what it had to be. And I remember sitting there thinking, I know I can do this different, and I also know that I can't talk about it yet. So I went about and I started creating business the way I knew to create business. And it's like and it was about following the energy. And that's the thing. It's like you've got to be willing to follow the energy in business with everything. So it's like when something shows up, I mean, it's about asking questions, which we've spoken about many times on this show, asking questions, not going to answer, not going to conclusion. And it's like, functioning from the space of possibilities. And with that, it is following your knowing. It's not going, oh, well, this doesn't reach the budget, or, I have to reach budget this week, or you can have that awareness. I'm not saying cut all of that out. Like if you're in a retail shop or something and you're like, well, we need to make X amount of money to, break even and X amount of money to make a profit. It's great to have the awareness of that. It's absolutely awesome to have that information, but you can't make it about that. You have to be willing to follow the energy. You have no idea. Like if something's happening and you get this hit to shut the shop and do something else and go visit another client somewhere, you never know what's going to show up. But you've got to do it from no judgment. Knowing in business has absolutely no judgment.
And can you talk about like what that looks like? And like say when you first started being, you're the founder of Joy Business and you're also the worldwide coordinator of Access Consciousness. And you said when you started they were in 4 countries, Access was, correct? And now we're in 176, is that correct?
I don't know. I thought we were in 173, but who knows, Emily? It's a new day.
Okay. So can you talk about for someone who's listening who, like what that looks like on a daily basis or like in practical, what does that look like to follow the energy? And like what you're talking about, practical matters that come up.
So I would say, so there's a much larger energy present here and it's a much bigger scale. And so at the beginning when I first started, working with Access, I mean, Gary, was like, oh, we could do with someone like you, Gary Douglas, the founder of Access Consciousness. And I sort of went, oh, I'm too busy. I've got my own business to do, and avoided it. But then I'd sit there and go, these guys require this. They need this. They need this. And I was like, okay, I'll just set this piece up for you. Or why don't you have a company here? Like you need a company. And Gary was like, okay, let's do it. So I started to sort of create some systems for them on my, what I was like, on my spare time sort of thing, because I was too busy. I had my own business. And then eventually I realized this was exactly what I wished to do. So, and I also realized that I could have my business and I could work with Access Consciousness. So, but the 2 things I would say that energetically set things in motion and get you to start moving forward is the demand I made, because I just thought these tools were fantastic. This is what I'd been looking for my whole entire life, was 1, that every single person in the world should know that Access Consciousness exists so that they can choose it. Now, there's not so that they have to choose it. It's not a cult. It's so that they can choose it. And number 2 was every single person in the world who has been to an Access class needs to know when the next one is on. I mean, it was crazy. Gary was flying all the way out to Australia to do a class. And I said, how do people know about this? And they're like, oh, word gets around. And I'm like, what? I said, this is insane. People would I would love to know when Gary's coming out so I could go to the next class. So I actually started the first email, and it was funny because I started the email under Hotmail. That was big at the time. And I did a Hotmail email. It was like, access at Hotmail, whatever it was. I can't remember now. And I did that because I wanted to be able to pass it on to anyone else and not commit, which was very funny. And committing is a whole other ball game and a whole other radio show, and how I, got through the big C word, the big commitment word, and what that looks like. But I knew that that's what I desired to have, right? And so those 2 points, I mean, that's not a conclusion. That's not, it's not a direction in a way that cannot be changed. So everything I chose had to match that energy of that, and then we would go forward. We would move forward. I mean, we have been in some of the most, I think the 6th country we were in was Korea. Now, if you looked at that logically and said, let's do a business plan, how and when and where is Access Consciousness going to grow? Gary and Dane were based in America. So you go, okay, Canada. There was action happening in Australia. So then you would include New Zealand. That's literally a logical way that you would move. And then Italy came on board. And then actually Korea came on board first. And then Italy. And it was
how did that
totally
first happen?
Well, it was expats, a lot of expats living in Korea. So, but then now, and it's like we've got stuff translated into Korean. And then a lot of the expats left Korea and we didn't go back there for classes. And now in the past year, it started to grow again. But that's following the energy. That's not going, oh no, we can't go to Korea first. We must go. I mean, the next logical choice would be the UK, London, English-speaking country, you know, all of those different things that you logicize rather than actually be willing to follow the energy. So you've got to be willing to follow the energy. And how many of you have been judged as being scatterbrains, or you can't make your mind up, or you can't settle down, or you choose a million things at once? You need to finish something before you start something again. And everything that is, and all the projections that have been put upon you, can we destroy and uncreate it? Time to Godzillion, right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine shorts, boys and beyond.
And that's, so I would love to know, so as like you're following the energy, and if something, say like someone's trying to grow their business and following energy, and like something like doubt comes up, like, oh, this is crazy, why would we go to Korea, or why would we do this, because it doesn't logically make sense. What are the tools you use to move past that and trust your knowing of following what you get is like a hit, or what feels like they're like following the energy?
I would say it's just choice, which is so simple. But that's the thing, Emily, and it's like knowing in business is not this, you know, you don't have to go and get a degree. You don't have to study something. You don't have to be a certain age, or you don't have to be a certain sex, or, you know, done a certain amount of years experience. You know. And it's like, how many times do you know? And it's like, and then you just choose. I mean, I've got this great story when my niece was a kid. She was about, well, she's still a kid, but she's a bit older now. I think she was like 4 or 5 or something like that. And they'd been shopping and bought a new carpet for her bedroom. And my mother came over and she was like, oh, Ellen, this is a beautiful carpet. Where did you get it from? Knowing that they'd been to the markets down the road. And Ellen looks at this carpet, you know, intently for like a few seconds or 30 seconds or something, and then looks at my mother and goes, London. And my mother went, oh, don't be ridiculous. You got it from the markets down the road. But it was so interesting to see how this child was functioning from her knowing, from her awareness, and looking at the carpet, literally talking to the carpet energetically, going, where are you from? And the carpet's like, I'm from London. So she looks at, and which is so, would be so common in Australia because we have so many English goods out here. And then straight away, it's disavowed by someone who's older, who's looked at as an authority, and your knowing is disavowed, and then you go to the wrongness of you and you go, oh, I mustn't know. Oh, that's right. It is from down the road. So everywhere that has occurred, that you've absolutely been disavowed your knowing, can we destroy and uncreate it? Time to Godzillion, right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine shorts, boys and beyond. And I think we're just about to head off to a break too. So this is not about going to judgment. It's about actually functioning from your knowing, no matter what it takes and no matter what it looks like. So we'll be back really soon on Joy of Business. You're with Emily Russell and Simone Milasas. Thanks for joining us.
Gary Douglas and Dr. Dane here are facilitating a class for the Earth with the Earth. The Earth class is a special 3-day class designed to give you the tools to create change wherever you go on this beautiful planet of ours. Join Gary and Dane in Houston, Texas, or online January 24th to the 26th. Go to www.accessconsciousness.com/earthclass for more information. All proceeds will go to El Lugar, a nonprofit foundation dedicated to creating greater ecological possibilities.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Elia, in the circle on Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern, as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. The cutting edge of conscious radio. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Simone Milasas and Emily, and we're talking about the art of knowing in business. And one of the things that we were talking about is following the energy and how that shows up. One of the adverts that you just heard in there was with a friend of ours, Chris Hughes. Now, he lives in Australia. He's Canadian. And it's interesting because we were talking about access consciousness being in Korea, and that's how we met. And it's like he actually was in Korea doing voiceovers. That was his job. He got paid a lot of money from doing things on elevators, level 3, to doing, cartoons and all different things in English. So that was his job, and he was in Korea, and then he met some of the access consciousness facilitators and loved it. So came to Australia to do his first level 2 and 3, and that's when I met him. And I loved his email address was something like, "Is my hair too big?" at, Hotmail or something like that. And I was like, who is this guy? He intrigued me. And we met and we sort of fell in love straight away. It was just like, oh, you're such a cool person, this cool humanoid that you meet. So we became fast friends, and then he actually ended up moving to the States and working with Good Vibes for You, which was a company I used to have. And then he came out to Australia to, follow the energy and coming out to Australia to help us with Good Vibes for You out here. And now he followed the energy again and works with Access Consciousness and the Antique Guild, Gary's Antique Shop. Found his husband, and now he's married and he's having fun and he's living here. But all of that occurs from the willingness to follow the energy. Like if he didn't choose to go to Korea in the first place, then his whole life would have looked entirely different. And that's where you've got to be willing to functioning from your knowing and following the energy. Like even when I was, and you would have heard this if you've listened to any of the radio shows or my story, etc., is that I was $187,000 in debt when I first met Gary Douglas in Access Consciousness, and I had nothing to show for it really, and it's a whole other story. But when I met Gary and Dane and the Access Consciousness tools, I knew that that's what I desired to do. So I remember sitting down with my dad, who was my accountant, and I looked at him and I said, look, I really want to go to San Francisco for this business class that Gary's doing. I need to, I want to know if this is what I'm really looking for, if this is really what it is, sort of thing. And my father looked at me, he was so sweet and so kind, and he said, Simone, I think you have to go. And he said, it's going to cost you like at least $10,000 to go, but what's another $10,000? You need to go and find out if this is actually what you wish to do. So from that space of possibilities and that choice of possibilities, I go to San Francisco. It's everything that I dreamed of and more. Like every tool that I ever heard, I was just like, oh my goodness, this is exactly the way I knew business should be done and could be done, but no one else was talking about it. So I followed the energy, and then I came home and I desired to get more involved in Access. And it's like in the, short story, then I became Access Consciousness Coordinator, and it's like I've changed Access around the world big time. My influence has been detrimental to where Access is. Now, would it have grown if I wasn't around? Sure. And it may have been totally different. It may have taken longer. It may have taken slower. I don't know. And it's like, but I know that I've been a great influence on Access, and that's from following the energy and always following the energy. It's like, okay, so where next? Question. Where next? Who or what do I have to talk to? Where do I have to be?
And what I'm so grateful for working with you is not only do you do that, but then you just how the energy that you be allows everyone you work with to be like that too. I mean, I remember when I was first contacted about doing social media, and I was talking with Megan Hill, who does a lot of the social media for Access and runs it. She said, well, Joy of Business would probably need you. And I was like, oh no, I don't know anything about business. But but yet it was the one Access Consciousness book I had marked up and every page was highlighted. But I still had this point of view that I didn't know anything about it.
Right.
But it matched the energy, and I just dove in, and I felt so I don't know if encourage is the right word, but I think one of the first things when we were talking was just, you sort of said to me, well, what do you know? And it was, you said it in this awareness that you know something. Just that was enough to allow me to be like, yeah, what do I know? And it was just, following all of that. And there's, like you're talking about no judgment, and there's something there with allowing, like, can you talk more about that, being that space for other people of no judgment so that you allow them to step into what they know in business and in everything else, really?
Well, basically judgment is created from people having a lack of awareness and a lack of acknowledging their capacities or somebody else's capacities too. So it's like people do this contraction thing which creates judgment, and they go into projections and expectations, separation, judgment, etc., rather than actually allowing someone to choose, even if it's not what you would choose. And that's where it's like an interesting point of view that somebody is choosing that, or it's just being an allowance for what someone's choosing. Like I was talking to someone the other day, and they were saying how, they've just hired people. I think she's in her 50s or something, and they've hired people from the Y generation, what is the Y generation? Is that young, is that 20s?
I think it's 20s.
Okay, so 20s.
Yeah,
okay.
20s.
So it doesn't
Late
even
20s,
mean anything.
maybe.
But the idea is that they think very differently. So, and she said the first thing they did was sit down and start to extrapolate about the projects and the business and what ideas they had. And she found that every time they came up with something, which was totally different because they are Y generation. And I mean, there wasn't email around when I was traveling around the world when I was 19. You couldn't email someone. You went to a post restaurant and picked up a letter, a handwritten letter. You didn't have the World Wide Web when I was traveling around. You didn't go and Google something. So it is all new to a whole bunch of people out there who are currently, still alive. And I'm only in my mid-40s, So, but anyway, they come up with all these new ideas, and the technical side of it, they were so quick with and new. And she said the first thing that she kept going to was like, oh, that doesn't work, or we've tried that, or, that's basically that doesn't work sort of thing. And she was like, oh, you know what? I have to be willing to change my point of view. I have to be willing to pock and pod every time I have that point of view and change my point of view. Because the willingness to actually receive, which is another big word, receive what everybody else has, like receive the capacities and let them choose that and let them play with it, even if they stuff up. I mean, what if you allowed every single person that you work with to stuff up big time? What if you lost money from it? What if you lost clients from it? What if that was okay? Because you know what? If you allow someone that you work with to stuff up, then they will have that awareness forever. You can tell them what to do. You can give them a list of what to do. But if you actually allow them to create themselves, then they'll always have the awareness of what occurs when they choose something. Because they're choosing it. It's not you choosing it for them.
Which is so different than like the micromanaging that typically goes on, or just the fear of letting go of control and letting someone else actually follow their awareness and follow their knowing.
Yeah, and everybody has a different awareness. I mean, right now, if we were like, if you and I, started talking about some project that we're working on, we would come up with a completely different angle. And neither of them is wrong or right. It's just like, okay, but that's a different awareness. And it's like, how many times in business do you, cut off and shut off other people's awareness rather than receive it all? And you know what? It might not have to physically actualize today. And you can ask and go, okay, so is any of this, valid for today, or is this the future, or for something else? I mean, I just started a Google Doc, and it's about a whole lot of ideas that we want to implement. And I invited you, Emily. You might not have seen it yet. With Access Consciousness. And because we've got a whole lot of ideas of different revenue streams and different ways to get the tools of access out there. Now, my plan is, I've invited about 8-9 people, is that we all write on there, if 10% of those things actually come into fruition, then we're doing great. But it's not judging that the other 90% didn't, or that everything that Emily wrote down, we never used. And it's like, oh, she's not much good, is she? Because every single awareness you have and every single piece of information you have ignites something in someone else.
Yeah.
So you have to acknowledge that.
And because that's one piece I'm so grateful for. I feel like there are so few companies and people in the world that function from that, and I am so grateful to be a part of that. And how do you, for someone who works maybe in like a typical, I don't want to say 9 to 5, but say they work for someone else, and they do have these ideas to contribute, but it's typical in that situation, well, if I'm the boss, I must know more than you do, or I'm the manager, I must know. How can someone in that position tap into what they
Manipulation.
know? Yeah. Okay. Talk about that.
Okay. So then so question and manipulation is the two things that I would say there, because I mean, the whole idea is if you've got someone that you work with, and this is a very common occurrence, is that they'll only use it, or they only would like to work with it, or they only can contribute to it if it was their idea. So make it their idea. And it's like, ask someone, what do you think about this? Like if I was doing it with you, it's like, hey, Emily, what do you think if we did this? And then it's like, and then let the other person talk and have the ideas and go, oh my gosh, that's a great idea, Emily. How do you think we could institute that? Or when do you think that could occur? And it's like, ask them questions and empower them to actually start creating. And this is not about judgment. It's not making one person less or one person more. There's someone that we work with that I know for a fact that she's so much more willing to contribute to something if she comes up with the idea and she can run with it. So, okay, you give her that energy of it's her idea. Like, does it really matter? And it's like, if you look at the bigger picture, what would you like to create in the world? What would you like to see in the world? What would you like to be in the world? And if you function from that energy, which is the art of knowing in business, then you're willing to actually, manipulate and ask questions of others as well. So be willing to manipulate, because if you're not willing to manipulate, then you'll end up being the one manipulated. So by, getting it to be their idea is the way to do it. Or if even empowering your boss and it's like, oh my God, you are such a good boss, or it's like, you are one of the kindest people I know, or, I love working with you. I've learned everything I know, so far in business, or everything that you have taught me has contributed to where I am today, or what else can I learn from you? And it's like, people like to have that sort of, acknowledgement. So, hey, we're heading off to yeah, it is brilliant. It's the brilliance of the art of knowing in business. So how does it get any better than that? What else is possible? What possibilities are available that we've not yet asked for? So, hey, we're heading off to a break now too. So, but thank you for joining us here on the Art of Knowing in Business. And if you want to check out more, you can go to accessjoyofbusiness.com. And you can also email us at omtimes@accessjoyofbusiness.com. We'll be back really soon after these ad breaks.
Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
The Conscious Parenting Radio Show provides inspiration and resources for loving, empowering, and respecting your children and yourself. Join me, Timothy, every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time as we consciously explore proven ways of living together in happiness, health, and harmony.
Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Welcome to a special one-time class based on Dr. Dane Here's Being You, Changing the World book. This class has no prerequisites and uses the toolbox of Access Consciousness. For this one-time premiere, you can join us in the end of January 2016 in Australia, Sweden, USA, or Denmark. Go to beingnewclass.com/premiere to sign up. It's now the time to be what and who you actually came here to be.
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
Hey everybody, welcome back. You're joined with Emily Russell and Simone Milasas on the Joy of Business radio station here. And we're talking about the art of knowing in business. And we've covered a whole lot of things, including manipulation. Question. So what else do you know? So let me ask you guys out there in the audience too. It's like, what do you know about business that you are refusing to acknowledge, that if you didn't refuse to acknowledge it, would change your entire reality? And everything that is times a godzillion, destroy and uncreate it, right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine shorts, boys and beyond. Now, even if you just do it with yourself, it's like get a piece of paper or use your phone, whatever it is, and write down 5 things that you actually know about business that you either haven't been willing to tell someone, or you don't want to acknowledge it, or you think you'll get judged, or you think you'll get ridiculed, or you think they won't work, or think, okay? You got to get rid of the thinking, because knowing is very quick. Knowing is instantaneous, and then what happens is we end up starting to think about it, and that's when you go into the pros and the cons, and you weigh things up, and you start to doubt, and you start to judge, and all of that. So everything that is times a godzillion. Can we destroy and uncreate it? Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine shorts, boys and beyond. So one more time, what do you know about business that you are refusing to acknowledge, that if you didn't refuse to acknowledge it, would change your entire reality? And everything that is times a godzillion where you destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine shorts, boys and beyond.
I was just going to say that, and that alone is so unique, and as a point of view in business, because we're almost taught to make a pro and con list and to figure out what would work before we make a choice. And that's something so unique with the tools of access, is that choice creates the awareness. You don't need to sit and make a pro and con list to make a choice. It's the choice that creates the awareness. And that's so unique to how we're taught to do business.
I know.
Opposite.
Did you notice we have these Skype threads for all of the different, projects that we're working on, etc., around the world. And one of them is the Joy of Business class that we're doing in Paris next year. And it was very interesting because the people, the hosts in Paris were like, right, we need this and we need that. And it was pretty much like they required a layout of what was going to happen daily. During the Joy of Business classes, the 3 days, it would be like, right, break at 10:15. And then tea and coffee or breakouts, etc. And I was like, this is not going to look like you think it's going to look like. Like, we literally follow the energy in a class. And it's like, even from the end time, like we can say class ends at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, but it doesn't. It ends when the energy tells you it ends. And it's like, how many times do you go to something and you know it's over, you know it's done, and yet someone keeps continuing on because they said it was going to be from 9 to 5. And yet at 4:40, you could tell that it was done. And it's like, and then what happens? You put time into the equation, which time is a judgment also. It's a creation. And it's like time is a creation as far as the way human and mankind look at it. Time, as far as the planet looks at it, is something completely different. So you put time into it rather than awareness and rather than knowing. And going, oh, okay, it looks like we're done. And it's like, in a meeting, how many meetings can you get done in 10 minutes and 15 minutes? And yet because there's an hour scheduled, it drags on for an hour. What if you didn't do that? What if you were the one in the office or the meetings or wherever it is that was the ones willing to stand up and going, oh, well, this has been great. Looks like we're done. Does anyone else have any questions? Is there anything else we want to discuss? Or can we just go away and start to create? And see what happens. See people look at you like you're weird, you're different, etc. But be willing to be judged for that. Because guess what? That's an invitation to everybody too, to be them. Because you being you is a huge invitation. Hey, I'm going to do a little plug here too, because on the 30th of January, live stream, I'm doing a class with Brendan Watt, my partner, live from Noosa, Australia. It's a full day class, but you can also live stream it. So if you're in the US or anywhere else in the world, you can jump on live stream. You can find out more about that class. It's called Being You, Changing the World. It's one of the premier classes. Dr. Dane here is doing facilitator training to become one of these facilitators and do these classes. So there's a bunch of us around the world. Megan Hill's doing one in the US as well, I think on the 30th of January from Denver. Hers won't be live streamed. and Katarina Valentin in Sweden, and Jonas Svensson in Dublin on the 23rd. So his will be live streamed. So if you want to check out about that, go to either our website, accessjoybusiness.com, and look up classes, find Simone Milasas classes and look up the class there. Or if you want to go to the site, what's the site, Emily? Emily happens to work with Dane stuff too, so how easy is that I have her online?
It's beingyouclass.com and then /premier.
Excellent. Cool. And it's like, check that out, because if you're willing to be you in business and function from your knowing and function from following the energy, guess what? It's going to get easier. Everything is going to move faster, and it's like you'll make more money. And guess what? Again, easy, 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 easy. Ease, joy, and glory. The mantra of access.
So
all of life
easier.
comes to you with ease, joy, and glory. Yeah. Well, you're not trying to fight anything. You're not trying to defend anything.
Yeah. And because I feel like when you're new at something, it's almost when you're reluctant to be you. You tend to, like, I think of I used to teach high school, and I think how difficult my first couple years of were teaching because I bought into this idea I had to not follow the energy. I had to have a complete, I almost wrote out everything I was going to say for the entire, 50-minute period. And I had to fill the entire time. Talk about being on a time schedule. If I finished a minute earlier, I was like, what am I going to do with, 30, 15-year-olds in a room if I don't have something to say for the last 60 seconds? And it was so hard. And finally, after 2 years, I think I was like, oh, I can just actually be me and create this class how I would like to create it. And it was so much easier and more fun. But I had bought into this idea that I must not know anything. I have to follow the rules. I have to. And I think so many of us, when we're new at something, whether it's a job like that, whether you go into a corporation, whether you're starting your business, we think we don't know anything. So we look to other people to follow this written set of rules, and it's so much more difficult that way. But it's a leap for a lot of people to actually trust that they actually know something and to follow the energy. But when you do, it's so much easier.
So the preparation of knowing, that's what I can see. It's I used to do that too with access classes when I used to facilitate when I first started. Or if someone booked a private session, I would try and find out everything that they wanted to clear, and I'd do all this. And then by so many times people would end up cancelling the session because I'd already done all the work. I'd already been trying to create change in their lives, or the preparation of exactly what I wanted them to get out. I remember I first started doing access classes, and I would write a list and I would hand it out to everybody in the class, and this is what we were going to cover. In the sense of not just having a manual and something as a guide to go by. It was we're going to go through these points and this is what it's going to be. Rather than the art of knowing in business is the art of following the energy, is the art of awareness, is the art of receiving, is the art of being willing for anything to show up, no matter what it looks like and no matter what it takes.
Mm. Which is the art of asking a question as well, right? Knowing that all you have to do is ask a question and be present with the energy and with the situation rather than feeling like it has to be you that creates everything.
Exactly. Maybe we should call this the art show.
They all fit together so well.
Exactly. Yes. Or even the art of knowing how many of you, with the art of knowing, how many of you know about money? And yet you've been told you didn't know about money. For various reasons. I used to always give my money away. I still do to an extent. But I used to do it a lot. I'd get money and literally divvy it up between me and my friends or something. Or, at the school tuck shop, it's I was always buying everyone else stuff. And there was some way that I was trying to make sure that everybody had what I had or something about that. I'm not sure. But but I knew that I would always have more money. I knew that I would always create something different. I knew even when I was in debt that I would always have more money. And it's so what do you know about money that you've been refusing to acknowledge, that if you didn't refuse to acknowledge it, would change your entire currency and cash flow? And everything at that is times a Godzillion, we destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Before we go off to the next break, I'm going to tell you this great story. This is a friend of ours, Emily Meyer, someone who we work with, and he took his son to a sea aquarium, okay, and they had passes to get in. And they had passes to get in, as you walk by that toy store, and his son Pierce wanted to buy a toy. And he went to get his money and he said, oh, I've forgotten my wallet. And he'd forgotten his wallet. So the first thing that this friend of ours said was he said, look, we can't buy a toy right now. He said, but I wonder who we could find in here that we know that we could borrow some money from. So he went to the conclusion of, I have to find someone I know that I can borrow money from. There's a whole bunch of, conclusions and answers within that one sentence. And his son, they get in an elevator and there's nothing on the third floor. And his son goes, Daddy, let's go to the third floor. So they go to the third floor and the elevator door opens and there's a $10 note lying on the ground. So his kid was looking at it from, where do we find the money? What do we know about money? Where do we find it? And then they went and bought a toy and he had the toy. But he didn't conclude that it had to come from a certain way. He was just like, no, we can find the money. We can get the money, Dad, from any way. So it's like he knew to go to the third floor. So where do you know to go to find money? Where do you know to go to find business contacts? Where do you know to go to find ease, joy, and glory? And everything that is times a godzillion where you destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine shorts, boys and beyond.
That's such a great story.
I know. It's awesome, isn't it?
Kids just aren't limited by how it would come, just where do I go to find it?
Yeah. Well, I remember at one point, Brendan was talking something about money, and he wasn't worried about money, but to a kid, the way he was talking, it sounded like that. And Nash came out and said, he goes, Dad, don't worry about money. He said, people just drop it all the time and we'll just pick it up. And it was immediately it sort of changed the energy. Because he's like, yeah, people drop it. It's fine. We'll just pick it up. It's okay, Or how many kids, have that awareness that money can just show up. If you ask for it, it can show up. It's like, what about if all possibilities could show up by asking for it, asking questions? Ask the universe for assistance. Big tool, ask the consciousness of the universe to assist you in whatever you are creating. If you get out of your own way and you actually allow the consciousness of the universe to assist you, then it's amazing what can show up. Okay? So ask the consciousness of the universe to assist you. It has your back. It's one of your best friends. So ask it to assist you as we go off to the next break. So we'll be with you again after these adverts. You're with Emily Russell and Simone Milasas on The Joy of Business. And we're so grateful that you're joining us here. This has been huge fun for us. So how does it get any better than this? We'll see you real soon. Don't go away. Don't go away. Don't go away.
New year, new business. Adding the joy into the pragmatics of business in 2016. How was 2015? Is it exactly as you would dream of? What if 2016 could be greater or even easier? Using the tools of Joy of Business, your facilitator, Simone Milasas, will explore how you can set up 2016 to be the year that sets you up for a future so brilliant and joyful it's currently unimaginable. What would that be like? Join her for a 4-part series starting in January 2015, January 15th, on your New Year, New Business. Access joyofbusiness.com/New Year.
As difficult as it is to believe, there are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
Hi, I'm Katrina Kavanagh, host of the I Am Wisdom radio show. I Am Wisdom is about the connection between mind work and energy work, spirituality and living a wonderful life. Looking forward to sharing each Sunday 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with you.
Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hey everybody, welcome back. You Enjoy Business with Emily Russell and Simone Milasas. And before we get going in talking and continuing to talk about this and ask questions and follow the energy, I wanted to follow the energy and mention that I actually have a new telecall starting in mid-January, and it's called New Year, New Business. So the whole idea of the telecall, it's a 4-part series, is I really wanted to sort of burst into 2016 with this new enthusiasm and a willingness to receive more and a willingness to get out of judgment and a willingness to, well, pretty much perceive, know, be, and receive in business. Because in Access Consciousness, we talk about you as an infinite being can perceive, know, be, and receive. And guess what? If you're only doing 1 or 2 or 3 of them, then you can't receive all 4 of them. So you need to be able to perceive, you need to be able to know in business, you need to be able to be in business and receive in business. So we're going to be covering a whole bunch of topics on those 4 telecalls. It starts mid-January. Again, go to accessjoyofbusiness.com, go to classes and check out where my classes are, and you can find all the information there. And if you also desire to listen to other OMTimes radio shows that we've had, we've got a whole section on our website. You just go to radio shows and click on that, and all the previous shows show up, so you can pick a topic, pick a person, because I have a lot of regular people come on, and find out more, listen to more. There are so many tools available to change your life, to change your business, change your cash flows, change your body, change your relationship, change everything. And it's like, because if it's not working for you, why are you doing it? And that's the art of knowing as well. And it's like knowing when to change something, knowing when to do it different. So business done different.
And before the break, we were talking about money, and I get that so many people have so many questions about money, and I've just been rereading again for like the 5th or 6th time, the How to Become Money workbook, which you and Brendan Watt, your partner, just did an amazing telecall on. And that idea of being money and actually bringing it into the present. So I think a lot of us with business, we talk, well, when it makes money or in the future when this creates money. And that actually always keeps it in front of you. Can you talk a little bit more about actually being the energy of what you know your business is capable of being, but being it in the present, like pulling it into now rather than always having it something that you can't get to?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty interesting that a lot of people talk about creating with the future or creating for the future. And it's like, guess what? The future is now too. Oh, yeah, and then it's now, and then it's now, and then it's now. It's like it shows up all the time, okay? And it's like, and what you can do, there's actually a great tool, and it's like going to the future, going to, okay, so let's do this. Going to 6 months into the future of your business. So this is what your business looks like in 6 months. Okay. Now, any of the molecules there that don't feel as easy, they don't feel as like functioning from the choice of possibilities, destroy and uncreate them. Okay. Now, go into 12 months from now. And any of the molecules that feel sort of sticky and they feel like they're stuck or they're limited, or any of the conclusions that have been created, because the choices you make today create your future. So how many of you are avoiding creating your future, or you're creating a future that's limited, yet asking for something different, and it's like you have these conflictual paradigms. So you go 12 months into the future and all the molecules that feel sort of hard and sticky and conclusive, let's change them. So let's change them on 3. What do? Put your hands up, gather the energy, and when we say 3, and it's like you just sort of flick your hands and destroy and uncreate all the energy that creates those molecules to be so solid and not be in a constant state of movement. Okay? So 1 is 12 months in the future. 2, 3. Cool. Now let's go 5 years into the future. And do you notice the energy? It starts to feel a bit different. And you've just changed the molecules for 6 months in the future, for 12 months in the future. Now go 5 years in the future. And everything that doesn't allow a choice of possibilities and that energy that can change and invite everything that you desire and beyond that, can we destroy and uncreate all of those molecules on 3? 1, bigger, go bigger. 2, 3. Cool. And you can do that as a regular sort of tool as well, like in, do it for 50 years, do it with 100 years, do it with 500 years, because guess what? What you're creating in the world today can make a difference in the planet in 500 years' time. And it's like, is what you're doing creating consciousness? That's what everything that I do and be is about. What doors can I open to consciousness that I haven't currently yet opened? And I happen to love business, so I do it with business. And everything that is times of God being, can we destroy and uncreate it? Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all names, shorts, boys and beyonds.
That exercise, Simone, is fantastic. I've never heard that one or done that one. So, which makes me want to ask you other questions of like, I have people ask me all the time, what are the questions you ask every day, or what are, and I realized that there were so many things I was doing that were different. So I would like, that one's brilliant. Are there other ones that you kind of do almost on a daily basis, or that are almost integral to how you create business, that are so habit to you almost might not think to mention them, but are really key to how you function?
You're like, how can I find those tools in the way that get spoken about? Well, you know what, Emily? It's so much about following the energy again, and it's like there's tools that I'll do. I'm typical humanoid. And it's like I'll do a tool until, like I used to do when I used to get, records or CDs, and I'd play the CD over and over and over and over again until I knew every song off by heart, and then I'd play another one. And it was like, that's pretty much what I do with the tools of access consciousness. And it's like I use them over and over and over again until there's this energy where you start to be it. But I haven't used that tool in a long time either, and it's great. And it's like, that if you have a look at what future would you like to create too? You've got to make the demand for the future you would like to see. And I'm not just talking about you. I'm not talking about things. I'm not talking about, the house, the car, the relationship, whatever. It's like, what energy would you like your future to be? What would you like the planet to be like? And what if you started heading for that? Now, the funny thing is, it ends up including things like a house, a car, a relationship. But if you make it about that, then you're making it about the conclusionary realities that this reality functions from, rather than the expansiveness of what consciousness has to offer.
And I love that, Simone, because I think so many of us don't want to step into that arena of greatness, but it's always when you actually play on that level of what can I create in the world and the change in the world rather than just your life. That's actually where we're meant to play. That's what feels light, but so many of us want to stay smaller for some reason, and that's such a different way of being in business, and it actually creates so much more, and it's actually a lot more ease. Like when we talk about things being easier, because it's actually who you be. Can you talk about how you function from that space? Because I think you just sort of do that naturally. Uh-oh, did we lose you? Let's see if we lost Simone here. I will Skype her and see if it's a technical issue or maybe her internet. Oh,
what if that is what you are willing to have? So you haven't had any of my joy of awareness stuff.
No, just like you cut off just then. So you can totally repeat it all because we didn't hear you for that little bit.
Okay. So I was talking about, I said that we should probably do a show called The Joy of Awareness. And I said, because one of the things I want to point out is anything that you have a knowing in, and say if you, like today, after listening to this show and you're like, you start to write down those 5 things that you've been refusing to acknowledge about what you knew, okay? And then you have an awareness. And instead of going to the judgment, instead of going to the wrongness of you, what if you had a joy of awareness? The awareness of like, oh, I'm acknowledging this now, okay? Because don't create your future based on your past. Create your future based on now and what the future can bring to you. which is the joy of awareness. So everything at that is times a godzillion, where you destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all known, shorts, boys and beyond.
And Simone, you mentioned making that list. I also, for me, what I found interesting was a lot of things that I found that I had decided I couldn't do were actually the things I was great at. Like, for example, a lot of what I'm doing now is based around social media. And like 2 years ago, I was asking my husband what was the purpose of him having a Twitter account. Like, I didn't understand it. It didn't make any sense to me. And sometimes it's like I also asking the question and looking at what are you resisting, and is it actually a greatness behind there and knowing in that area that you're refusing to see and refusing to look at. It's just an interesting question, because what's the resistance? What is that there? Is it actually something that you know?
I love that. Yeah. And it's like, and you're brilliant at it, because it's like you have this, I mean, I remember when Megan Hill, who's head of social media and access, and I was asking her about Joy Business, and she said, you need to talk to this girl, Emily. So, so I did. And then she was like, damn, I wish we'd hired her first, but now you work with both of us, so it works out fine. But you have this ability to not get into it, but an ability to have like an aerial view is what I call it, and a much larger view than even aerial view. And it's like this universal view of what is required in social media. And it's like, so where do you have that aerial view of something? And you've been refusing to use it, and you could probably make money from it or judge it. And everything at that is times a godzillion, where you destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all known, shorts, boys and beyonds. So, Emily,
Brilliant.
We're almost at the end of our show here. So I want to thank you so much for coming on and asking some amazing questions and pretty much being the amazing being that you are. I am so incredibly grateful for you in my life, in Access Consciousness and Joy Business's life. You make it way easy. So thank you for coming on. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Simone. I'm so grateful, and I love being able to ask these questions and get all the information out there for people. So thank you for having me.
You're welcome. We'll see you next time on Joy Business.